Okay, this video is all about how to use the FlexTite scanner. You're going to want to use this if you need higher quality than what you can get out of the Epson scanner. You're going to notice the fidelity of the scan is going to be a whole lot higher, your dynamic range is going to be bigger. It just takes a while, so you can't batch scan. This is just the tutorial on how to use the FlexTite X1. Let's get to it. Okay. So, the FlexTite uses this software called FlexColor. So just want to open that. It'll usually open when you turn on the desktop, but not always. Once that's open, and this is very important, you want to open the FlexTite first before you turn anything on. Make sure you take your time, make sure you do it nice and slow. This thing is amazing, but it's really, really fragile. And if you turn it on before you open it, it has this little feeder that comes out, and that will it can break if you don't open and close it in the right order. If you're ever unsure, just come and grab one of us. We should always be around to supervise, and we'll be able to help you out with setting it up and shutting it down. So now that this is on, now that this is open, you want to turn the FlexTite on, solid press of the red button, and you can see that the tongue is coming out here. What you want to do now is locate your negatives. I'm going to show you with some color, medium format, as well as some black and white 35mm. If it says preventative maintenance, services recommended, just go OK. That's going to click through it. Now, when it comes to the FlexTite, you need to use these holders, which come in this little booklet here, which should be right next to the FlexTite. You can only really scan one image at a time, and we've got these holders which will hold pretty much any of your 35mm medium format and even 4x5 negatives. You can see them here. So we're going to start with a 35mm neg. We're just going to grab that. These are basically kind of like a fridge magnet on a bit of very flexible spring steel. And all you want to do is find the single neg that you want to digitize. Let's say this one. So we found the neg that we want to digitize, and we're just going to put it emulsion side facing down, so that's the matte side of the negative, into the little holder here. And then adjust it so we can get it all properly centered. You want to make sure that you're not going to have any film that's clearing either side of the holder. Once you've got that, just slide it onto the input tray, slide it up, and you'll feel a magnet take it up into the jaws there. We're going to come over to the scanning window, and we're going to check all of our settings. So we're going to be scanning, and this is where you have a little bit of freedom here. So we're doing black and white, so I'm just going to go to scanning in black and white negative standard. Frame is 24x36, that's 35mm format. We're going to scan in grayscale 16-bit. You always want to go for the highest bit depth that you're able to. And then PPI, I'm going to chuck it to 3000. It's about as high as we can go. Actually, in interest of this, I'm going to set it to 2000 because it's going to take quite a while to scan. So once you've done that, you've got all of your settings, hit preview, and you're going to see that it's just going to warm up. It's preparing. Make sure you don't touch any part of the scanner at this point. So it's warming up and it's taking the film in. It's not going to go all the way, just some of the way. There we go. So now we're getting the preview of our entire film area, and it's coming out. Wonderful. So now that we know where we actually need to scan, it's done a preview of the entire area. We're just going to marquee slightly larger than what we want to scan. We're going for 2000 PPI, grayscale, setting up with that, and yep. That's all good. Now if we want to zoom in on a particular area just to do a test scan rather than waiting for the whole thing to go, what we can do is click this magnifying glass here. It's going to bring up this preview window, and based on our 2000 PPI, scanning resolution, we're going to end up with a window about this size. We just want to check and make sure that our foreground's in focus. So clicking on that, and wait for it to go in, and it's just going to scan this tiny little part of the negative at that full resolution rather than the whole negative. This is more of a handy thing to have when you're scanning larger resolutions rather than 35mm, because you'll get, you know, more of a sense of the actual detail you get. But here we go, and that looks really nice and sharp. Cool, so we're all good to go. We've got the full range here. Just going to get our histogram up and make sure that we are not losing any information. So when you're scanning, what I generally like to say is the scanner is really good at capturing information. It is awful at editing images. So you want to bring up your histogram and just make sure that your black point and your white point are both not clipping. In this case, we've got this little peak of white up to the right hand of the image, and that's just that little white border we've got here, so that's fine. All of this main area, we've got a bit of clipping here in the highlights, which is probably just above there, but all of that is being captured, which is the important thing. So we know that that's all good to go, and now we can hit scan. So now we just have to save our scan. I'm just going to save it to desktop as test1, save, and in it goes. And it's all done. So that's all finished. We're going to just see if we've got our test scan here. Just going to open it up. Awesome. I don't know if it's going to come through on the screen recording. The grain definition you're able to get out of this scanner is absolutely incredible, especially when you pair it with larger format negatives, which we're about to do. So let's go over back to the flex color. We're going to get rid of our 35mm negative here. That's all done. So now I'm going to move on to medium format. Let's go for this guy here. So we're just going to scan this frame. Of course, you know, you want to make sure that you're cleaning all of your negatives as you would be, you know, regardless of where you're scanning them. I'm just doing these as a demo, obviously. So this is a 6x6 or a 645 neck holder. I think we need the 6x7, which looks like this one. Just double check based on what aspect ratio of medium format you're shooting. There should be a holder for it. You might just have to take a bit of a peel through. Cool, so we've loaded it in, again, emulsion side, face it down, and let's load it into the negative holder. Now what we're doing is just going back into the Flex Color software, and we're changing this to negative RGB standard. There are all of these other film-specific presets that you can use. You can play around with these as well, just sort of see what works best for you. There are, you know, sometimes it can be best to just scan as a negative and then do all of your editing yourself, including the inversion. Sometimes you might prefer to scan as a positive. I'm going to leave that up to your discretion. We're going to scan in RGB 16-bit again, get all of the bit depth that we can, and we're going to do it in 2000 dpi again. You can notice how much bigger our file size is this time. So, hit preview. We just loaded the negatives exactly the same way as we loaded the 35mm neg. Just have to change the holder. Okay, lovely. So now we've got our scan. I'm going to try and see if we can retrieve some of that clipping. Obviously, it's got a very bright sky. I don't quite like how much saturation this has. So you can play around a little bit with what color you want to be using on it. This works okay. I think we've got pretty much all of the color that we're going to be claiming is all in here. So Again, we're going to mark it out. We're going to make sure that we're not losing any. There we go, that's a bit better. So we're going to make sure that we're not losing any of that detail. So you can orient the picture and you can use all of these tools to zoom in and out, as well as reorient the picture here, so you can flip it around if need be. So we have all of our settings sorted, and right now we're just going to scan it as a positive because we just want to get it out and get it printing as quickly as possible. Chuck it into 2000 dpi and scan. And we're going to go test 2. Make sure that you're saving it as a TIFF format. If you're saving it as a JPEG, you're losing all of the incredible dynamic range that this scanner is offering you, and you're not going to be able to edit it very much in post once you've finished. Hit save and let the scanner go and do its work. Okay, and it's finished. So it's just spitting it out there, and we can view it here. Cool. So just going into detail a little bit here, you can just see how incredible it is. And that's basically, from here we'll take it into Photoshop and edit it how you would normally any other image. But that's the easiest, quickest way to get your scans done. Some people prefer to scan it as a positive, so not needing to, so if we go RGB saturated. Some people prefer to scan it as a positive rather than a negative, so it gives you more control over your final output. The one thing to keep in mind with that is that you will have to remove the base tint of color neg. It's a whole lot easier with black and white. The color, you do need to do a bit more work if you're scanning it as a positive, or scanning a negative as a positive. But it does give you more control over the final image at the end of the day. And when you're using a scanner as good as this, it can be worth that extra effort. But this is just to get you started and get you using the scanner first of all. That's the most important thing. Anyway, now that you're all done with the scanning, gently remove your negative from the negative holder and the negative holder from the scanner, and then put it back into the little booklet. Make sure everything's in there and treat everything very gently. It's all incredibly expensive, quite unfortunately. Now, when you're going to shut down the scanner, it's very important, first of all, so I'm going to quit the software. And when you go to shut it down, do not close this first. If you close this first, it's going to screw up the entire scanner. The little arm here will break and the scanner's kaput. So when you go to shut down the scanner, first things first, very important, make sure that you turn it off and wait till everything is off. There's no light anymore. The little feeding mechanism has retracted, and then very slowly and gently close the front of the scanner. If you do that in the wrong order, if you close it first without the feeder retracting, it's going to snap and you're going to break the scanner and no one's going to be able to use it. I think that about covers it.